Well, hello everyone. This is Sandy Z, your Tapping into Magic and Possibility coach, and I want to talk to you today about creating this magic and possibility from overwhelm, stress, chaos, maybe what's going on, right? So often when I work with people, they often feel like there's something wrong if they can't get there quickly, if they're struggling with something. And, they know so much about strategies, say, with their health, with their businesses, with whatever they're working on. They're really, really, really educated. They have a lot of information, and it's just there's a struggle happening. And how do we go from that place where things aren't moving to making things move? Making things happen, having possibility happen again when we've been stuck, whether, again, with any area of our lives, it all tends to be the same. And so how do we do it? How do we make it happen relatively quickly? It can happen instantly. It can happen overnight. It can happen in days as opposed to months or years. Well, so I primarily use energy techniques at this point that address subconscious mind. These are the things that are often out of our awareness, okay? And so how do we address that when it's not even in our awareness? Well, you can address it by starting wherever you are. So, if you're feeling stuck or you're struggling with something, this is a great place to start. You just need to have some tools. And there's many tools. The one I prefer is tapping. It's very fast and effective for most people, especially if you're working with someone who knows the road, knows how to find and release some blocks quickly for you. And so how do we do it? So the first thing that I always recommend, and this is going to sound counterintuitive because we so want to jump past things in our lives, myself included at times, especially if there's really hard stuff going on. To stay with it. It's paradoxical, but we want to stay with whatever we're feeling. Feeling is our power. It's our creative power. It's actually how we, quote, manifest or create what happens next, is the things that we have a lot of feeling around, emotion around, is really what we're creating the most powerfully. And how do I know this? From my own life, yes, and also from my clients. I see it over and over and over. So it's very important to kind of stay with what we're feeling and work with it. That's the entry point into often our subconscious programming and beliefs. So if you're someone who knows a little bit about the tool tapping, great. You understand where I'm headed. And if you don't, I'm just going to give a really brief kind of overview, very brief, today, because I realize that a lot of people who might be tuning in aren't aware of what I'm talking about. And so that's okay. You don't need to. But what I would say in terms of creating the most powerful, quote, magic in our lives is really being real. We got to get really real with where we're really at and allow it. We can't be in resistance. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example to start. And then I'm going to dive into a little bit about what tapping is and how it works. And for those of you who know it, what to do next. And for those of you who don't, what to do next. So I'm working with a client who is, just one example here, who was feeling stuck and frustrated with her business. Now, what's fascinating is how much of what was really going on had nothing to do with her business. And by the way, this is often the case. It was a lot of stress in her life with one of the issues that was blocking her ability to kind of move forward. And this is very common and normal. And then another thing that was going on that's, again, very common and normal is the core beliefs, the kind of the past stress that we all have, that was kind of stuck in her nervous system, in her body, around how she feels about herself, right? And this is the real magic, is when we can heal and address how we're feeling about ourselves. It's not even about our businesses or our weight or the things that we think it's about, the externals. There's always a feeling that comes first about how we're feeling about ourselves and then our lives. It's truly powerful when we can access that. So she was frustrated with everyone, reciting all the ways in which things were going wrong, and feeling very overwhelmed by several things that were happening that she thought were saboteurs that were external. And when we looked at it through tapping, which accessed her subconscious beliefs, there were a lot of things going on under the surface that were affecting her energy and how she was kind of creating this stress in her life too. So what did we do about it? Well, we stayed with where she was at and we worked with her feelings. Now, again, many people will say, no, focus only on the positive, stay in what you want, stay focused on your goals. I've noticed it's very effective and fast when people actually focus on how they really feel and whatever's really going on with them. And believe it or not, often we just want to be heard and our stories to be told so we can release them, right? A lot of times people are holding in a lot of unconscious stress around the stories that they've grown up with. I don't deserve this kind of success. I only deserve this much success. I can't upset anybody in my life. I don't want to surpass people. I don't want to make anybody jealous. And again, these can be sticky and unconscious beliefs, and we will find ourselves stuck every time. So for her belief was, I have to work really, really hard and give to deserve just this much success, right? And she'd achieved quite a bit of success. She was very successful, but it was very stressful. And things were starting to break down, which is fascinating to me. And you know that you're ready for a big growth spurt when that's happening. It's because you no longer want to do it the way you've been doing it. You're ready for something new, usually. So this was true for her. She wanted it to be easier. She wanted a shift in her business, though exactly what it wasn't clear. And you don't have to be clear. And I actually invite people not to be, because from a limited perspective, we often aren't when we're in negativity. So clearing that and then seeing what's possible actually is more powerful for people and creates faster results and bigger results than they ever thought imaginable, right? So with her, we tapped on her stress, her immediate stress, okay, and it started to clear, and she started to see possibility, which was fabulous. And that's when she was ready to start receiving the positive and the possibility. I never jump ahead. We stayed with where she was at, and she started to notice a lot more clients coming in, and she was feeling good about it. Not just that more clients were coming in, but it was starting to feel positive to her because she'd had some stress and negativity with some past situations with clients too. And all of this was coming from her own beliefs about who she was, what she was able to do. And again, this working hard and not receiving, having to give a lot to receive what she did. So, and this stemmed from a childhood where this was the pattern. It was a very solid pattern in place. And so through tapping, we released this pattern, or we are releasing the pattern, and we're noticing week after week more flow, more clients, more joy in doing it without killing herself to do it. The pattern is shifting. It's fascinating. And this is only the beginning for her. And instead of feeling stressed, depressed, anxious, she's starting to notice more connection, more friends, people supporting her everywhere, being supportive, I should say, instead of people being negative around her, or her having to give and not kind of receive their support back. So in networking situations and different things in her life, and all kinds of possibilities coming in. So she's taking better care of herself, and all of these things are starting to shift. So this is what I mean when I talk about magic and possibility. It's coming from within us. this is how I see it. This is just one example. It truly is within us, our manifesting power, our magic. Okay, we think a lot of things are external. And it can seem like, yes, this is true. Look what's happening, and this is happening, and I've got these bills. But there's a lot happening within us that's creating that. Okay, so I just wanted to give you that example before we start of where we're headed. And I'm going to explain a little bit about tapping to people and the subconscious mind, the unconscious beliefs that we all carry. It's normal. And so in releasing them is where everything becomes magical. Everything starts to happen in a new way as we create new beliefs from a deeper level. We don't have to force our affirmations. We can truly believe in possibilities. So by many estimates, and many of you have heard this now many times, but what we're actually conscious of is very little. Okay, there's different estimates, and we're all different at different times in our lives. But 5 to 10% of what's happening is what we're actually aware of, and the rest is subconscious. So we're missing lots of information that is buried in our subconscious mind, and this is a good thing. We don't want to be aware of our heart beating and all the bodily functions, and this makes sense in some ways. But when it starts to cause problems is when we're kind of stuck, or when we're feeling like we're not creating what we want to create in our lives. So, and it's not a problem. It's just something to look at. And so tapping is my favorite tool after I first heard about tapping from a psychiatrist, the head of psychiatry at Kaiser in Honolulu, believe it or not. No, that wasn't the first time, but it was in that same period, this 2-year period, over 25 years ago. And I've been fascinated with it ever since. And I'm certified and an expert in energy therapies and tapping and many other modalities that address the subconscious mind, because it's the most powerful way to create change in our lives, I have found. And tapping is just really accessible. So you'll hear it called meridian tapping. You're going to hear it called EFT, emotional freedom techniques. And I'm just going to call it tapping. There's many different ways to tap. At this point, the way I do it is my own way, based on clients, based on what I've been doing over the years for over 10 years. And it becomes an art after a while. There's no one way to do this to get results. It's really a collaboration. And what's happening when we're tapping with our fingertips on just ancient meridian points throughout the body, the face, the hands, different points on the body, to release emotion. And you're going to hear different theories about how it works, why it works, what it's doing. All I know is that it releases emotion, and it seems to access our subconscious mind. Now, I've come to believe that the subconscious mind is embodied. That's why it works. It has to do with it's encoded within our energy throughout our bodies. It works on animals, which is fascinating, truly fascinating. I've used it on horses, cats and dogs, and, myself, people who don't believe, in it. You don't have to believe in it. So it's fascinating to me, and I still use it to this day. And the secret is in being with where we're at. So often it takes us a while to even access what we're really feeling. I'm working with a client today who, so there's different things that go on with tapping, but sometimes we just want to tell our stories. And we're not necessarily accessing emotion. We just need to tell our story to just kind of get it out. And then what we're left with is the feeling. It takes a while to access our feelings. This is really, really common, especially with food issues, which is what I've primarily worked with over the years, as well as success and relationship issues. So it takes a while sometimes to know how we really feel. And when we get there, it's powerful and it can be kind of worked with and released. And then we can create new possibilities. So tapping is literally just using your fingertips to tap on specific meridian points. And again, there's many ways to do this, to release emotion and belief systems that we didn't even know we had because they're mostly unconscious to us. So that's the power of it. It's a little like hypnosis. Many people are familiar with hypnosis, except it's a totally different technique to access unconscious thoughts. And what's really, truly magic, the magic is what comes after we tap, is that suddenly we're seeing the world in a new way, right? Of Course in Miracles says that all miracles are a change in perception. And what we focus on is kind of what we tend to see. And then what we get, the classic example of, you get a new car and you start seeing that car everywhere. That happened to me. I had a car I'd never seen before anywhere, and now I see it everywhere, right? So what we're conscious of, what we focus on, is kind of what we start to notice. So that's the literal effects. And then there's also this crazy manifestation effect of where, the phone call comes in that you couldn't have made happen, the wonderful phone call, or that 3 new clients out of nowhere, you didn't do any, quote, traditional techniques. They just showed up. Relationship things change. To me, that's true magic. I consider the magic things that we're not really efforting, but that just come to us naturally, that feel really natural to us and are in alignment with us. So it's all about being in alignment. And how we do this is kind of through working with where we're at, again, the fear-based emotions, and letting them go. Many of you have heard that there's only 2 emotions, fear and love, right? The spectrum of fear-based emotions that we all have. I think it's really normal and even healthy. It's not that we shouldn't have them. I don't think we should jump past anything. It's really powerful to work with how we're really feeling, but to work with it and to start to shift it from within so we can have more possibilities in, quote, supportive, loving, good ways, right? The things we really want to happen. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a struggle. It should be relatively effortless, I think. And I think that because I've seen it. I've seen it to be true. Again, when we work with the unconscious, it's the most powerful route that I have seen to creating possibility in our lives, in every area. So for those of you who know tapping and you want to create magic and possibility, the fastest route is not to jump into the end result, actually, necessarily. It's often staying with how we really feel. Like I said, stay with how you feel, allow it, have compassion, and begin to move it through, letting it go. It's tremendously powerful. I was doing this with people in my meetup group who are not clients. They're not people I work with regularly who have a deeper relationship with me where we're doing, quote, deeper work. Just letting go of all the negativity and fears and doubts and stress about anything that's happened around something, a goal. One woman was stressed about finding work. And all we did was tap on all the fears and stress and doubts to just let it go, just letting it go. And that alone created the magic and possibility in her life where something came in sort of randomly. I mean, obviously she was looking, but something wonderful came in. And she responded quickly to it. She wasn't in fear and doubt. She just responded. She got an interview. Then she got a second interview. And I mean, it was magic, and she got the position. It was fast. It was easy. It was relatively effortless. She felt good doing it instead of stressed. And she was able to negotiate what she wanted in a salary. And she felt really empowered instead of disempowered. And she'd been looking for work for over a year. It was a very profound, quick, wonderful process. But she started with addressing all the fears. She didn't jump past it. And so when we clear that out, we're in our possibility and our magic. So I invite you to do that. For those of you who don't know tapping, I'm going to be posting some tutorials later. You can also search. You can work with a good practitioner. That's the fastest route because though it looks simple, there's a lot involved in actually getting results, and finding your way through. And it's also helpful to have someone else kind of, helping you through your unconscious, right? It's like we get stuck there sometimes. I constantly work with other people when I'm working through something. So I don't, it's invisible to us sometimes how we block ourselves. So I hope that helps. It's a little controversial, I think, in the kind of quote self-help world. We all want to focus on the positive so much. And obviously that is a great thing. And that's the end result we want. We want to be focused on our gratitude. We want to be focused on, quote, love and feeling good. But sometimes we can't because we're stuck in fear and the stories around what's happened to us. We all do it. I think it's super normal. No matter how much success we've had, sometimes we can get really tripped up. And that's a great productive place. I often feel that, like, the bigger the challenge, it really is true that the bigger the opportunity that comes out of it if you choose to work with it and have that opportunity, have that challenge worked with. It's a choice on how we address it, right? Powerful, powerful. So that's my little tip on creating magic and possibility, letting go of fear, how to work with fear, the doubts, the fear-based emotions that we all get. Though they're normal, they can be worked with really, really well and really successfully and faster than ever before because we've got these amazing tools and you've got it at your fingertips. So I invite you to learn more at my websites. They're on this page. And if you have any questions, you can contact me on Facebook. I have several groups on Facebook. Friend me at Sandy Zeldis on Facebook or go to my Eat Like a Goddess group. I have some other groups I'll be starting. And yeah, that's it for today. Bye for now. And send me your comments and questions on what you want to hear me talk about. I'm always talking about the things that people send in to me, the questions I receive, and the biggest challenges I see people working with and what they're wanting. So that's the focus of this podcast. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you or talk to you next time.